Whatever I put in the last video, it was not. It was not. I'm going to be really quiet because my mom was really bugged. I was laying down on the sofa because I decided the solution to the problem was not to stay awake, it was to go to sleep. I went to sleep and I woke up. I get really close to the mic because I'm trying to be quiet. Look at my eyes, and it's a fairly interesting thing to get close to the eyes. I'm actually I have to clean my screen because I can't really look at my eyes in this light. The dust on the screen are really preventing me from seeing my own eyes. And they're kind of hurt. My left leg. I'll show you where it is. Right along here. Let's see where it is. I think it's actually gone away. It's probably just that I was leaning against it along the bone. Once I put it on your circulation hose, it's probably just circulatory. I think that might actually be what it is. But I was just like, man, this really hurts. What the heck did I do? What was I doing in my sleep? And it was possible that I had my legs crossed. Anyhow, it's going away. It seems to be the case. What you're seeing there is compression hose. And there's no way that this is going to wake her up what I'm doing here. But she tends to get super sensitive, and when she's really close up, you make any peep, she's like, "Don't talk. We could hear you in the next room." You cannot hear this unless you're the either the bionic woman or the $6 million man. In the 70s, we got these TV shows. The bionic woman, Mrs. Lindsay Wagner. I think that's the actor's name. Lindsay Wagner, or what was the name of the guy that played the $6 million man? You know what I mean. He has such a recognizable gait to his face there. I mean, the whole thing there. He could just as easily just replace Roger Moore, maybe even take out Sean Connery at the same time in a 007. But he got that special TV show, the special break that these other guys didn't get, to make quite a few little shows there. And Lee Majors and Lindsay Wagner. Look them up. Bionic Woman, the $6 million man, which back in the 70s was quite a bit of money. So it's like they say, okay, some really large, feasible amount of money that could be in the future. That certain attributes of this guy, he's not. He's a Frankenstein of some sort. He's some guy that can undergo some kind of transformation, becomes the capacity to run really fast, jump over things. Almost no different with the bionic woman. In either case, you kind of look at them and say, nothing so special about them. Then you see them picking up cars and stuff, and you're like, wait 1 second. Didn't I see that Lou Ferrigno doing that the other day on the Incredible Hulk? And then if you've ever gone to the studios to do that thing, you realize it's just a counterweight on some vehicles so that you can sit there and actually pick it up but you're picking it up because of this counterweight that's permitting you to make it seem like you're picking it up. When really what the counterweight's doing is it's symmetrically somehow symmetrically reducing the weight of the car to some extent, making it pivot in a way that makes it super easy that even a little kid could lift to perceptibly lift the car. The whole idea was is in those days they did not have computer graphics. They did not have the capacity to do the visual manipulation you can do in the last 20, 30 years or so, 40 years. Computer graphics, image manipulation that started with a movie called Amazing Stories. And the guy who made Amazing Stories is the guy that had his special. He did other shows, but the idea was to see you next Wednesday. That guy, that director, he made Amazing Stories, and it was something in Amazing Stories that actually kind of threw him in jail because he was not looking out for a particular scene in the movie where they were moving these Asian children and somebody died. And it was because they were not looking out for it. And he ends up going to jail for this. But I don't, it's possible that's not really the way it turned out in my mind. But I really felt Mr. See You Next Wednesday went to jail over what happened in Amazing Stories on the bit about the guy doing some Vietnam mission where he really wasn't being concerned about what happened there. Anyhow, what was it I was going to say? Yeah, I was going somewhere with it. I don't recall. It will come to me eventually. I just wanted to make people aware that something funky went on when I went to sleep. I woke up and I started talking to myself, and it was really kind of like, "Hey, I just woke up. How the heck is this thing hurting?" It wasn't an unfamiliar feeling. It's like usually when things hurt like this, it's like you slapped your leg in such a way. Maybe I was so distracted I did something that was painful. I just somehow got through it without it not really bothering me. And this is something I'm sitting there jogging my brain for. Where did I end up doing that? And I've also had the same experience actually. Had the same experience. Not even audible. I've had the same experience usually when I've leaned on it or I've felt this. I know I've felt this in the past, but then you only feel it whenever you put your hand up against the. She said that, oh man, it's kind of hot. It's raising the temperature. So some sort of immune system problem. Hey, COVID developing in my leg is going to lead to leukemia. It's scary. It's scary. We're over here, son. We're over here. It's scary. It's scary. Dana Carvey playing Senior Bush Senior, talking to Saddam Hussein, trying to kind of like say, "Do you need we Saddam Hussein?" Did I tell you that Dana's brother Brad is in my Facebook account? Don't mess with him. He's Dana fucking reveres Brad because Brad is cool as fuck. Brad's basically the most humble guy that you'll ever meet, and you think, well, I'm going to meet this guy and I'm really going to show him that I'm something special. This guy, Dana, as a brother, will tell you, and he's got plenty of footage all over the place, telling you that Brad was a major inspiration influence through his life. Both of them got Academy Awards. Brad got his Academy Award in an area that people don't usually find Academy Awards, but they do. They are there. They just aren't publicized, and that is in technology that brings about a change in the industry. They'll give Academy Awards to engineers. He got one for this technology every Amiga user knows about, and everybody that was involved in the 90s that had anything to do with video production, where the cost of video production went down quite a lot so that any novice could do high quality chroma keys and gen locks and time-based correction on videos, and all the kind of junk that permits you to buy a beta cam whenever you couldn't really afford beta from Sony. You couldn't afford any kind of beta because the other hardware was going to get in the way of the cost. Brad helped to make that cheap, the other hardware cheap, so that the artists or the studios could go in and buy that piece of hardware, that Sony hardware that gave you more quality. And it only did this for about 5-10 years until somebody came up with the, what was it, DAT. It wasn't DAT, it was something a bit better, but it's basically digital video format. And that just pretty much annihilated beta. And there are a lot of people going, hey, Sony gets their ass kicked. Sony got their ass kicked so badly around the 2000s for all sorts of shit. And it was because of their own doing. I'm sure their lawyers were out there, this is all you're doing, the impact. They couldn't do that because they were pushing this shit. They pushed impact. You can blame Sony for this. It was their fault bringing about MPEG. It was their executives having this great idea without really analyzing what they were doing, pushing this technology. This is the kind of stuff that conservative businessmen, I had a friend of mine tell me about this. Anything is good for consumers, bad for business. That centered mentality, that idea. The idea is that anything that's good to the consumer is going to cost us a friggin' lot. One way or another, technology is going to screw us over. It happened to Sony in a big way, and I hope for their sake, for the creditors' sake or whatever, that they had set aside enough money to insure them for the blow that this thing took. And I didn't do the research to see if they actually compensated enough, but it cost them at least $3 billion in Sony BMG, and the whole MPEG thing was their doing, the motherfuckers. It was their doing, and if they can't fess up to it, maybe they got somebody else to do it behind the scenes to kind of put the weight of their own sin on someone else's back, on the consumer's back. Sony was the motherfuckers that brought about the MPEG. I love the MPEG. We all love the MPEG. MP3 is actually this German guy who came up with a lower bitrate method of doing MPEG, which was permitting you to send sound and video streaming it over telephone lines. Nobody does that anymore, but people associate the idea of the MP3 with that, and that's not MP3 is not. It is actually something patented that is not MPEG. It's a level up from. It's a level under MPEG. It isn't MPEG 2. MPEG 2 existed before MPEG 3. Several, and it wasn't German. It was created by guys like Philips and Sony, bringing all their resources together to research a method of putting movies onto CDs because it was so much easier, as they could see, than putting movies on videotapes. It was just going to make everything so much nicer. It was this new tech thing, lossy video compression. It involved DCTs, and the thing about DCTs is they're a form of Fourier transforms that can be done in hardware, and it's a symmetric Fourier transform. It's not a digital analog conversion. It's an analog to spectrum across time format, and then back. What they do is they convert frequency into a spectrum. Then they sample over time that conversion of, say, 255 samples or certain period. It's like a second, or it's some frame per frame. So what is it per frame? Per second, it's 48,000 samples, or 4,100 samples. Divide that by 30, or 29.97, 25, 24, something in that range, depending on what you're shooting for. That sound, okay, I'm talking sound, not video. Sound. So for every little bit of the sound that's coming through, it's being turned from waveforms or whatever into harmonic spectra or whatever. And then they apply this human model of knowing where our sensitivity is with respect to frequency. And I was overhearing Skunk Baxter saying this the other day. Oh, yeah, and the upper range for men, 17 kilohertz bandwidth. Bandwidth means the highest frequency that you can produce, or not band, it's something like that. The highest frequency you can produce that the male species can actually hear. And he says, oh, and the women, for them it's 20K. Or maybe it was the other way around. And he said that probably the reason why that is the case is you get babies, they scream at a high frequency, and you become deaf at those high frequencies. And he said probably the reason why women just tend to like guys like Michael McDonald and what's his name, old Blue Eyes, Frank Sinatra, is because the limitation of 17 kilohertz band limitation, the upper frequencies. How do you deduce the sample rate to that? It's pretty simple. You take 44,100 divided by 2.5. Why 2.5? Because it's probably going to require, in order to create a quarter of a sine waveform at the smallest amount, the only way you can do it is 2.5 plus 2.5, one half of the waveform that way of the sine wave from the up curve, down curve. They're basically no different. The difference is which direction the magnet is pushing that center the speaker in or out? Is it sucking in the air or pushing it out? Sucking in, decompressing and compressing the air, which produces the effect of sound. It's a volumetric thing that sound. It's a fluctuation in volumetric air. The way air is being compressed and uncompressed produces sound. And you can break that barrier, and it uses it. It's pretty easy that it blows up. Okay, I have to cut